Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for having this important hearing on movement of freight. When I think of this issue, I think so much of Washington State and all the products that come through on their way to Asia. And we have, in a short period of time, seen something like a doubling in the size of the ships over the last 5 years. So yes, we have a lot more capacity, and we obviously have a rising middle class in Asia, and they want more U.S. product. So the question is, what are we going to do to meet that demand as it relates to improving our infrastructure? So one of the things that has occurred is the recommendations of the Freight Mobility Board, which was chaired by Mort Downey. I think somebody you're familiar with, Mr. Gerling, and I think Ms. Farmer, somebody from the Railroad Association at least, participated in that. The question is, how do we move forward on those recommendations, and would you support a dedicated funding source to freight so that we could raise the importance of why moving this product is so critical to our economy and infrastructure, and that Tiger alone just isn't going to get it done?
Are you asking me?
Yes,
Okay.
Ms. Farmer or Mr. Gruling. Sure. Anybody else who wants to jump in on that?
Okay. Certainly, we support anything to make our ports more competitive. We're excited about the working together of Seattle and Tacoma, so we will certainly stand together to work with them. We believe that the Tiger grants were a good thing, that we need more funding around those kinds of issues. And so from our perspective, anything we can do to make them more competitive, we're certainly in favor of that as well.
Senator, certainly our 4 points with the coalition, the number one is to establish a fully funded dedicated freight program. And we believe that that needs to be at least $2 billion a year. And this is not a program that's going to pick winners and losers in the transportation field. This money should be spent on what makes the most economic sense in terms of performance for the entire system. And we believe that setting priorities on a national scale for the projects of national and regional significance is one of the mechanisms to do that. And also the establishment of a separate freight office within USDOT, again, to strictly focus on these multimodal needs nationally.
So what do you think that we need to do to get people to understand this from either an economic impact or some of the things that your organization has done in studying the economic development associated with this?
You know, a lot of what we do at the center and through the coalition is education. You may see this brochure that we recently produced through the coalition, Follow That Almond, and it shows the supply chain of an almond from a California grower to the port of Hamburg in Germany, delivering almond butter. And we'll have more of those in the future. I think that helps. But I also think that local jurisdictions and state jurisdictions need to understand and look at freight more on a national level and think in terms of interconnectivity, not just what's good for Elm Street or what's good for my river, but look at the whole national system and make sure that they're aware that what we do at the national level, at the local level, interconnect, and we really need to make sense of that when it comes to funding.
Mr. Bizek, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Well, the only, I guess more of a comment, Senator, you hear lots of numbers talked about, $2 billion for infrastructure, and I go back to the number Senator Fisher mentioned in, a port. If the ports were closed today, it'd be $2.5 billion per day to the U.S. economy. And I would submit we're very close, although they're not officially closed. I think we're very close to that at this moment. And so I guess my comment is simply it seems like a very wise investment in an expense that the U.S. Taxpayers and consumers are paying today, daily, because we don't have the free flow of goods.
Well, I think we learned the lesson in Washington because we're at the tip of the spear, and so that congestion caused so many problems that we learned that if we were going to be competitive and not lose that business, that we had to make the improvements. But now we need the improvements made all along the system, not just, right there. But I think we just have to prioritize for people to understand that we will actually lose the economic impact. It's not just the upside, but there is huge upside, but there is a downside if we don't act as well. And that is that people will go to other ports or start buying product for somewhere else just because they can get more predictable timeframes for its delivery. So we really need to make this investment. Thank you, Madam Chair.